Save the King!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Pod Save the King. I'm your host, Russell Myers, the Royal Editor of the Daily Mirror, and I'm joined as ever by Jennifer Newton. And, well, what have we had? Fresh from Wales Mania, we're going to be bringing you the taste of India, Cornish pasties and scones. An unlikely trio, but we'll probably get on to how you take your scone a bit later because we never shy away from the big issues here at Pod Save the King. But first of all, let's talk about Cornwall, shall we? What's been going on in Cornwall? We've had Prince of Wales in Cornwall. He has been celebrating St Piran's Day. This is pretty much, I would say, a national day, but the Cornish people kind of think themselves as separate. They've got their own separate flag. They're a sort of a people of themselves, a beautiful, stunning part of the world. We know, of course, that Prince William and Princess of Wales are the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall whenever they are there. But he was riding solo today. He was actually helping out, dish out some Cornish pasties at a pasty shop, referring to a woman as juicy. I mean, we'll come on to this in a minute. He attempted to take her lunch order during the royal visit, donning a pinny and wearing some branded merch from the Gear Farm Pasty Company near Helston. William picks up the phone. He asked the lady what she would like for her order and thought that her name was Juicy. So that's caused a lot of hilarity in what would have otherwise been a fairly, I suppose, not as glamorous job as we saw the Princess of Wales on today. She has been in Leicester. She has been given a taste of India. She's been given a Bollywood lesson and been at a temple as well. But let's give us a little update on what William was up to first, Jen.
Yeah, so he, like you say, it was in Cornwall. He went to this farm that sell these Cornish pasties. Obviously, in Cornwall, you've got to have a Cornish pasty while you're there.
That's the law, I think.
Do you want to know something?
Go on.
I've never actually been to Cornwall.
I was about to say you've never had a Cornish pasty.
No, I've had a Cornish pasty, but I've never been to Cornwall. So if anyone wants to...
I had only been... I mean, it's a long way from anywhere.
It's a long way,
I mean, you are from the northeast.
Yeah.
I am from, the southeast. It's a long way.
Even from the southeast, it's a long way.
You can get to New York quicker.
Yeah, you can.
And I'm talking transfers in the plane. I think my wife went last year with the children, and I was on a royal tour, and it took her 11 hours to drive there. It is literally on the tip of the boot of England, if you will. And so whilst it is beautifully... mainly untouched scenery down there, and I'm sure the Cornish people, we call them, we have Mackhams up in Sunderland, Geordies up in the northeast. We're giving our listeners abroad a sort of a bit of a dalliance around the country.
Cornish?
Cornish. Maybe you're just Cornish.
Yeah, I think Cornish.
If you're from Cornwall, please do message in. We hope we haven't offended you in the first 2 minutes of the show. But we joke, but this is obviously very, very important to William. Not only was he there to support local businesses, but St Piran's Day, of course, being very, very important. But William had been speaking to local communities and local businesses about how they'd come together because there was a huge storm on January the 8th, one of the most severe storms that ever hit Cornwall in recent years. I remember seeing the news that there's winds of over 120 miles an hour, 50,000 homes without power, 15,000 without water. And, all these major highways, pretty much rural routes there's no motorways going down to Cornwall, and that's why it gets so blocked up with the thousands of tourists that flock there in the summer months. But it had been absolutely blighted. And so, what did the royal family do? Well, they sort of shine a light on all the sort of emergency services, the local volunteers who were working round the clock, rather, to not only sort of get people back on their feet, but to get the roads clear so people can go and visit the shops and people who live in more remote areas. And that was very much part of William's trip today, wasn't it? Not just dishing up the local lunch fare, but also to speak to the first responders.
Yeah, and that first responder thing, I think, was something quite important to William and Kate. They do try, I think, make a point of going to meet people like that after these sort of incidents. So yeah, he was there. He was meeting the chief fire officer from Cornwall Fire Service.
And she made a bit of a joke about him. You come down in the we were in the spring now,
yeah.
thankfully. But she said it's wildfire season soon, so you'll be back. And of course, our listeners in Australia, parts of Europe, and of course America will be very well versed, and Canada will be very well versed about wildfires. And a huge problem. It doesn't escape us, even though you may think that we have very damp and drab summers rather. It is something that happens all over the country here as well. So, like I said, we do attack the big issues here, and I want to know, how do you take yours?
My scone.
Your scone.
Yeah. So I don't want to upset people from
Well,
Cornwall again, but I'm going to upset them again. I'm sorry.
populations.
I do cream then jam. Sorry. Yeah, cream then
Cream
jam.
then jam.
Cream then
It's gotta
jam.
come on.
Yeah.
It's got to be cream and jam.
Yeah.
Because if you put the jam and the jam and then the cream,
Yeah.
you're surely just getting a mouthful. Anyway, to explain a little bit about this, the Devon way, Devon and Cornwall very, very close to each other, and the Devon way is the cream first, then your jam on your scone or your scone, however posh you are, I suppose. And then in the Cornwall, it is the opposite.
Yeah.
It is jam then cream, which seems...
Because they say their cream's better, so like cream rises to the top. I think is the
that's a very
the
nice soundbite.
explanation. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway,
But
let us know how
I
you
don't
take
believe it.
yours. And we were entering Cadbury's cream egg territory for Easter now.
Oh yeah.
All in one.
Yeah, just shove it in. All in one go. I do love a
Let's
cream
go
egg.
on to the Princess of Wales. She has been shown some traditional dancing. She's been made an offering of milk during her first visit to a Hindu temple in Britain, which surprised me, actually. I thought that Catherine would have been to a Hindu temple before, but some great pictures. I mean, she was sort of dancing barefoot around the temple, taking part in a religious ceremony. Very, very up for getting involved. We saw her being shown a dancing event or sort of ceremony as part of a sort of Bollywood network that are serving the local community in Leicester as well. And, you know, these kind of away days, and there's multiple engagements today, twofold really, you know, visiting the local religious hub, but also it has been the Festival of Colours, Holi, it has been recently, which is all about the arrival of spring, spiritual renewal, community cohesion. And Catherine was there to have a blessing, take part in this flower garland ceremony. And I think that this just works rather well for the royals, doesn't it? I mean, gosh, we've had quite a few weeks of it. People asking me left, right and centre, will the monarchy survive this latest scandal, which we've had a few of late. But what will they do? Will they get out and about, or will they keep calm and carry on, that old adage? But what more can they do? The king has spoken. We'll come on to his, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor in a bit. But I think that what more can they do? And surely the Prince and Princess of Wales have got to get out and about to the communities and shine a light on these important community relationships as well.
Yeah, I think they do. And like from what I've seen from Kate today, she took a little short walk down the Golden Mile in Leicester, where they have all these like great shops and cafes and restaurants selling all bits and pieces. And people didn't know she was going to turn up, but when they found out she was going to there, you can see in the pictures, it looks like she was absolutely mobbed. Yeah, so it does show that it does work, and people do still want to see them out and about. And yeah, I think it is probably the right way for them to move forward from this.
Again, what else is the alternative? We saw what happened in Wales last week. It was thousands?
Yeah.
Thousands of people out, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's not just school kids. I saw a bit of criticism from Republic talking about school kids being busted against their will. But that's going to be part and parcel of an away day wherever the royals go, whether it's King, Queen, or Prince and Princess of Wales or other royals. If there's going to be crowds, there's going to be lots of school kids who have been given the opportunity, you know. And I don't think my children have an interest in what I do at all, but they do know that I get to go to Buckingham Palace and I get to go to certain events. And if I'm going to somewhere like Leicester, that the princess is going to be there, and they actually think it's really cool. And so, you know, school kids do actually enjoy getting involved about that, waving the flag, you know, talking about your history, seeing these people that they've probably seen on magazines or in the newspapers or what have you. So it is an important part of our culture, I think. And I think what we've seen today with the Princess of Wales being in Leicester, being part of a ceremony of religious significance, taking part in other cultures and customs, is a sort of coming together that the royal family do really well. And, you know, certainly King Charles is he's probably the best at that, isn't he?
Well, yeah, definitely. He is the one that
The
really
gold
does.
standard.
Yeah, the gold standard. You're right. Yeah, the gold standard for bringing different people together from different religions and cultures. And yeah, I think it was a really good. I really enjoyed Kate's visit today.
It's a bit of light in the darkness.
Exactly.
That is what I always say. I think you need a bit of this. And Catherine said herself that she was super energetic. The dancing, the group of Bollywood dancers that performed the routine for her, is handing her a rose. She was saying that her 3 children would love the dance moves. And this was at the community centre that had just celebrated Holi, this Indian festival of colour, love and spring. And we are actually enjoying a bit of good weather. Bit of a weather update.
Once.
We haven't had one for a while. We're enjoying a bit of good weather. We are sick to death of the rain that has been clouding our days and our nights. And fingers crossed we got some better big engagements to come up. But one big event.
Yeah.
Big moment. I'm sounding like Trump himself now. This is going to be huge. This is going to be massive. But the King's trip to the King and Queen are due to go to the United States in April. Now, we have had some pretty choice language and some pretty, it's been a war of words. There is a war happening in the Middle East, but certainly Donald Trump has not been too shy about being quite forthright against our Prime Minister. And, what did he have to say about him this week?
Yeah, so obviously the US have been involved in this war in Iran, which started earlier this week. And it seems that Donald Trump isn't very happy that the UK government, specifically Keir Starmer, he doesn't feel have supported him as what he would have liked.
And it's
in
all
this
about
action.
relationships with the Donald, isn't
And
it? It's all about, whether you're doing the right thing or you're being seen to do the right thing. And of course, this is in relation to the British government essentially loaning our air bases.
Yeah.
And whether they were allowing US aircraft to refuel and stop over onto islands that are British territories, essentially.
Yeah.
Does this, war of words, whatever you want to call it, this fallout, and it is a fallout. I think that the UK was severely criticised during the week that we weren't going to be supporting the Americans. We have done a couple of days later, I think it's 48 hours later. Does this potential souring of the special relationship, do you think that this puts the trip in jeopardy?
I don't know if it puts it in jeopardy, but I think it really ramps up how important it's going to be, because from the way I see it is, you've got Donald Trump saying things like Keir Starmer's no Winston Churchill. There's people, there was a press conference today given by Keir Starmer where all the journalists were asking him, is the special relationship over? Is the special relationship over? So now the way I see it is the King's got to go there and try and,
smooth it
over.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think he had to do that anyway, but I think that pressure on him to do that is just ramped up even more. And you just think, he's got that on his plate. Yeah, he's got that on his plate. He's still getting cancer treatment. He's got the Andrew situation going on, heckled in the street, and now he's got to go and potentially save the UK's special relationship with the US.
Again,
it is a lot.
We talk about soft diplomacy a lot, don't we? Whenever the royals are abroad and what that means, that the buzzwords that the royal media teams like to use a lot. But it is a thing. There is a special purpose for the royals going abroad. This soft diplomacy aspect, you can try and work out better relations with our cousins and partners abroad, and certainly we saw that in abundance when Trump was over here for his second unprecedented state visit, where he gave a very glowing speech about the King and referred to Catherine as the Queen, and then sort of pulled himself back. But I think that does it affect things? I think Trump is interesting in the sense of he has huge reverence for the royal family and the King, and he said himself when he was saying those words about Keir Starmer about huge affection for Britain, the United Kingdom. My mother was born there, and obviously his family ties and his business ties as well, very very in depth in Scotland. But I think it comes across the cloud because now people will be speaking about is the special relationship. We've seen it in commentary this week. Is the special relationship dead? Is it more pressure, as you say? Is it more pressure on the King? And does it does it give a different atmosphere for the tour starting?
It could do, yeah. I think it will, and I think maybe even the first few minutes of the king arriving in the US is probably going to set the tone of how the rest of it, how the rest of the tour is going to play out. Possibly.
Remember when he goes to meet. Remember when he goes to meet certain world leaders when they were doing the coalitions of willing or whatever it was.
Oh yes,
and he's like, he'll go up and meet some of them, and then just won't bother with like the Finnish prime minister or with people. And that will be a big thing, because if he doesn't have that reverence again, like he did at Windsor Castle, and talking about how amazing it was to see all the paintings. I've seen more paintings than anyone's seen in their lives. That will be poured over. Yeah. And again, though, further to the UK and US's relationship, I understand, and it's been mooted over the last couple of weeks, that Prince William and potentially the Princess of Wales, we don't know yet. There's certainly been no confirmation on either of them. But if both the Prince and Princess of Wales do follow on the King's and Queen's heels to go to the US, part of this is because of the 250th anniversary of independence on the 4th of July, but also it's the World Cup in June and July, and he's now the patron of the Football Association, and so he will want to be there. If that trip doesn't go well with Trump, and I don't imagine there will be any major flashpoints, but if it doesn't go well, if there is an atmosphere, does that then create an atmosphere for the Prince and Princess of Wales to go? If the King goes to the White House, will William and Catherine go? I mean, there is an awful lot of moving parts here. I mean, if William and Catherine go, it's got to be blockbuster.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And Trump will want to meet them, and he will want them at the White House.
Yeah.
And whether the World Cup, so I was looking at the fixtures that England have got. We've got some at the end of June, and then at the beginning of July. But I can't imagine that William and Catherine would go to Mexico if they're in. This is all if England win the group, or if they don't win the group. So there's a lot of moving parts. But I think what would happen is they'd go around that week, and then they'd possibly stay on. You have a game before or a game after, and maybe Catherine would fly home to the children, and because George is he's finishing school. He'd be finishing school in July, and then he's obviously starting at his secondary school in September. So I think that there is a lot of moving parts. I mean, what do you think about William and Kate in America? That'll be just bonanza, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you think it's going to be big when the King and Queen possibly go next
which
month.
you will, because they will roll out the red carpet for him.
I think it'll be even bigger for William and Kate, given their profile in the US. And potentially, it seems like Donald Trump really likes William and Kate. Remember when he met William in Paris and he was calling him handsome? And calling Kate beautiful and healthy. So, I think for him, he really wants to be seen with them. So, I think he'll definitely go. But even with somebody like the King, we're just saying about the special relationship. If there is someone that could mend the special relationship if it needs mending, I think it could be Charles.
I think you're right.
Because he is such a seasoned diplomat. And I don't know, maybe do we not give him enough credit when we say he's got to walk a diplomatic tightrope? Isn't that like his job, what he's been doing for 50 years, and he's quite good at it?
You say that, but like, let's look at the evidence of people that can't do it.
Yeah.
Andrew, I mean, in abundance. Certainly Prince Edward. He was in the Caribbean. He made that faux pas in the Caribbean. Was that last year, the year before?
Oh yeah.
When he basically said, "Oh, sorry, I wasn't listening to what you were saying."
Yeah.
And then he's not in the room sometimes. It's when the journalist asked him in Dubai about the Epstein scandal, and he said, "Oh, I don't think anyone's bothered about that or interested in that." Well, I've got news for you. They are.
Everybody is.
Everybody is. I mean, it's a bigger story. War happening at the moment, but it's been a bigger story in the world for a long, long time. It has huge issues, and for not only the royal family, but for the White House. I think it speaks to privilege and entitlement and what allegations people have got away with for a long time. And there's people being interviewed and asked to account for the lack of transparency in the United States, and now we're seeing it in the UK as well. So it's definitely a story that is not going away. I mean, and saying that, what I saw this week was Ken Wolfe, Princess Diana's former bodyguard, talking about regretting meeting, in quotes, arrogant former Prince Andrew, but he also said that he would label the whole situation as toxic. But what did he say about the scandal? I thought that this was really interesting.
Yeah, so he said that the Epstein scandal is not finished, and it's not, because we're still
Never gonna go away.
it's never going to go. It's
Yeah.
never going to go away. I mean, I wouldn't say there's been any real updates for Andrew this week. You know, we haven't had any more police updates or anything like that. But it's just the drip, drip, drip feeding of, you know, people like Ken Wolfe coming out and giving his experience of what he found, you know, being with Andrew and meeting Andrew. And
Yeah, I mean, he said
That's
he was
the
one of the most arrogant individuals
Yeah.
I have ever had the misfortune of meeting. And we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago when there was members of Parliament standing up in the House of Commons in London, queuing up to give their reflections of meeting him. And I think that this will be incredibly damaging, not only for people in government, potentially for the royal family. There must have been diplomatic cables or emails sent complaining about his behaviour. Andrew's always denied the allegations in front of him, and he has not been charged of any crime, even though he was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in a public office. He is under investigation. Now, the issue for the royal family is if you give over all the details and the files and the emails, not only are you going to potentially find out who he was entertaining at the palace, whether it was Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell or people attached to them, you will potentially find, you know, members of staff complaining about him, allegations of his bullying attitude, let's say. And I think that can be particularly damaging for the royal family, because who knew? How was this passed up the chain? Were there instances where he could have been reined in, as it were, and not been such a dismissive force within the palace?
yeah, definitely. And I think that's like one of the things, isn't it? Even if, you know, he hasn't done anything wrong legally, that's still to be determined. But, you know, these allegations of that he was just arrogant and he didn't treat people very nicely. It's like, well, why didn't someone have a word with him?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Why
Yeah.
didn't even the Queen just say to him, come on, you've got to calm down now.
You
can't
wouldn't
treat
be able
people
to
like
get
this.
away with that. You're
Yeah.
totally right. You wouldn't be able to get away with that
Yeah.
in a work
In any
environment
other workplace,
like us.
yeah.
You know, and why should it be any different? And
Yeah.
it's interesting because I think there has the mood around the Prince and Princess of Wales household creating this corporate-like structure, and I use that in quotes as how it's been described to me. That is about accountability. It's about being more relatable, but being more transparent in your operations. You know, we had Andrew lauding it about in the palaces, even recently going out to Windsor, riding the king's horses.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't set the right tone in it. And it is about trying to be more accountable. And it's interesting that people are coming out the woodwork now. I mean, a lot of people have said things about Andrew in the past, but I think it is open season at the moment. And the more people feel emboldened to come out, the more chance there is for politicians to stand up in the House of Commons with the parliamentary privilege that they have. The more, the deepening this scandal will become. And I think that certainly someone of Ken Wolfe's stature, I mean, he served as Diana's protection officer from 1988 to 1993. He was a bodyguard for both William and Harry and the late Princess of Wales as well, and commended by the late Queen for his efforts. So if you know, he even didn't get the respect of the former Prince Andrew, then you can imagine people way down the sort of pecking order, or how Andrew sort of perceived their importance. Now, just before we close, I wanted to mention Harry and Meghan's trip to Jordan seemed to go without a hitch, but there was a little bit of criticism, and I don't necessarily like to just jump in with the criticism, but I want to say, you know, it possibly in defence of Harry in one sense, and maybe some PR advice in another, because he was asked by a Channel 4 journalist who was accompanying them to Jordan last week. It wasn't a direct question, was it?
It was more like, we know that you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But then they said, we know you don't want to talk about your family or Andrew, so that we'll talk about something
it's a
else.
get out. Yeah.
But I think from Channel 4 it was quite clever from them, because it didn't leave them open to criticism that they didn't use the opportunity.
Sure.
Like, they didn't waste the opportunity.
And obviously, this was hugely relevant and prevalent in the media, in the wider landscape. Andrew had just been arrested a few days before, and then Harry is standing there with representatives of the World Health Organization trying to talk about the work that he's there to do. However, from a PR standpoint, I don't think it is a problem by Harry saying, listen, there is a police investigation ongoing. It would be remiss of me to talk about these things. And my added 2 pennies worth here would have been, my father has already spoken on this issue. He has said the law must take its course, and I'm going to leave it there. Surely that would have been a better tact.
Yeah, that would have been a better tact. I mean, when the guy from Channel 4 News, the reporter, didn't ask, but like you say, mentioned his family and
Awkward,
Andrew,
yeah.
It was really awkward, and you could see Harry's face kind of just turned a lot. He looked angry, I'll be honest.
Why
he looked
wasn't
angry.
that prepared? You surely that his people had said, he's not going to say anything about Andrew, don't bother asking. So maybe that was a way of,
Of getting around
and
that,
then he couldn't then say, listen, I told you I didn't want to talk about that because it looks rather petulant in the middle of an interview. However, I do believe that it would have curried favour with his father and with the palace and said, my father has spoken on this issue. There is a police investigation and there's nothing more for me to add.
Yeah.
So I just, we're back to the old adage of damned if they do, damned if they don't. But maybe in that moment he could have been better advised. Now, of course, there is lots coming up to look forward to. Hopefully we'll see a bit more of the royals out and about because we have Commonwealth Day on Monday. And this is normally something to look forward to. It's a very colourful event. And who are we going to see there?
We're going to see everyone there, basically. Well, all of the working royals
The
working royals. So, King, Queen, Prince and Princess of Wales, Princess Anne. I don't think the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh are down to go.
Really?
So, I didn't see that on the list. So maybe they're doing other things, which they haven't been in previous years.
And let's clarify, because we've kept being asked by everybody who passes our desk, are Beatrice and Eugenie going?
Yeah, they've never been before.
They've never been before.
They're not working royals, so they're not expected to be there. But it is one of those events where it's like the first big royal event of the year, isn't it?
We have had, you're right, first big royal event, and it was like the major flashpoint of the last Harry and Meghan job. Then it was the return of the Princess of Wales, and she was coming back from being in remission from cancer. So there's always something going on around that, but it's probably because it's normally the first big event where they all get together. Yeah. But so hopefully we will have full coverage of that. Plenty going on next week, and we will be joining you as ever next week for a full update. So do join us at PodSave on all the socials. I'm at Russell J. Myers on Instagram, RJ Myers on Twitter. And I just want to say a quick thank you because my book that I've been banging on about for ages, I really, really appreciate the support and for all of you who have gone out and bought a copy because it has made the Sunday Times bestseller list this week. I'm immensely grateful, hugely, hugely overwhelmed. And thank you so much for your support in the States and Canada. It is out on 10th of March. And I've really enjoyed reading all your comments, engaging with everybody who's sent me loads of really nice messages, mainly on Instagram. Don't go on X if you want to ever read the nice messages. But thank you very, very much. I really, really do appreciate it and super, super kind of everybody. And until next time.
Pod save the king!